Most people think there can't be women pirates. Let's reconsider that. In the 17th and 18th centuries, a woman accused of piracy had almost no chance of survival. Why? Because in those courts, they were judged not only for piracy, but also for being women. The naval courts of the time, established in colonies like Jamaica and New Providence, were juryless theaters where verdicts were decided long before the trial. Judges, naval officers, sailors trembling with fear. There was one thing missing in those courts: justice. In the male-dominated world of that era, being a female pirate was a grave crime, both legally and socially. But some women challenged that order. Among the most famous female pirates in history, Bonny and Mary Read were tried in Jamaica in 1720. When Bonny's death sentence was announced, she told her lover Calico Jack a phrase that stayed in people's minds for a long time. "If you had fought like a man, you wouldn't have been hanged like a dog." Of course, these women had one defense: pregnancy. Yes, the so-called pregnancy defense was perhaps the only legal escape route allowed to women. They survived, but only briefly. Most female pirates didn't even get that chance. Execution Dock. The End of Freedom. On the shore of Wapping. In London, the morning silence was shattered by the screams of the crowd. Right beside the Thames River, pirates swinging from the gallows presented a grim spectacle. And yes, among those hanged were women. Britain's 1698 Piracy Act was clear: whoever commits piracy shall suffer death. Executions became almost a public show. Prisoners were taken from jail, paraded through crowds in carts, and then brought to the gallows. It wasn't a quick or painless death. They died slowly in what was called the Marshal's Dance, while the crowd watched silently. Though fewer women were executed, the pity shown to them was no greater than that shown to men. In 1729, American Mary Critchett was captured, brought to court, and hanged without a word. No pregnancy, no spectacle just death. Whipping before the noose. For some women, the gallows were not the end. Before that, they paid the price for breaking the law with their bodies. Whipping was one of the most humiliating and painful punishments of the time. Female pirates were whipped in front of crowds, on docks or outside prisons, with nine-tailed knotted ropes. The lashes cut not only their bodies, but also their dignity. These punishments were also a warning. You fought like a man on the ship, but on land we remind you that you're a woman, the system said. While women suffered in blood, the crowd silently learned their lesson. Slavery, concubinage, and silent losses. Not every female pirate went to the gallows. Some were dragged into quieter, more invisible ends: Caribbean, West Africa, America. In these ports, some women were not executed. They were given away as slaves or concubines. Especially black or indigenous women, whether prisoners or crew, were sold as spoils of war. Most of these women's names were never remembered again. Many female pirates were effectively erased from history, buried in colonial homes, plantations, or shipholds. Silent deaths on prison ships. For some, death didn't come with screams or hanging. They died silently in the dark holds of rotten ships, in the middle of the sea. Abandoned warships were actually prisons, damp, airless, and pitch black. Chained women struggled with typhus, dysentery, and starvation. They were defenseless, open to abuse, disease, hunger, exposed to everything. Each had a story, but they were buried in silence along with themselves. Female pirates didn't just challenge the seas. They overturned male dominance, and that's why their punishments were never just about justice. Society wanted to remind women of their place. Each punishment was a warning. A woman must know her limits. But they were not afraid to cross those limits. Even today, these stories still echo in the shadows of execution docks and on the decks of decaying ships, and their erasure from history leaves this question lingering. Who is justice really for? And who deserves to be remembered? As Tacitus said, "The more corrupt the state, the more numerous the laws." If you want the voices of these women who defied the system to reach more people, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. So, whose lesser-known stories should we uncover next? Napoleon's secret weaknesses, or Cleopatra's palace secrets? Because behind every name, there's a story, sometimes harsh, sometimes stirring, but always captivating.